Imagine a company so powerful that nearly every transaction on Earth depends on its software. Governments use it, banks use it, corporations use it, entire industries depend on it. Now imagine that software begins losing users. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gradually, quietly, system by system, connection by connection. The risk is not immediate collapse. The risk is migration, because systems rarely fail overnight. They are replaced. For decades, the US dollar has functioned as the financial operating system of the global economy. Energy flows through it, trade flows through it, debt flows through it, reserves flow through it. The modern world was built around its architecture. But recently, a new phrase has entered economic discussions: de-dollarization. At first glance, it sounds technical, academic, even boring. But beneath that word lies one of the most important geopolitical shifts of the 21st century. Because this is not a story about currency, it is a story about power. And every system built on power eventually faces the same question: what happens when alternatives emerge? Today, we decode the hidden architecture of dollar dominance and what could happen if that architecture begins to change.
Most people think the dollar became dominant because America became wealthy. The reality is more sophisticated. The dollar became dominant because it became infrastructure. Infrastructure behaves differently than products. Products compete. Infrastructure becomes embedded. Consider electricity, roads, the internet. The more people use them, the more valuable they become. Economists call this a network effect. The dollar developed one of the largest network effects in human history. After World War II, the United States emerged as the dominant economic power. Global trade expanded, international finance expanded. The dollar became the preferred medium connecting both. Over time, countries accumulated dollar reserves. Corporations borrowed in dollars. Banks settled transactions in dollars. Energy markets priced commodities in dollars. The system reinforced itself. Every participant benefited from joining the network, and every new participant made the network stronger. Eventually, the dollar stopped being merely a currency. It became the default language of global finance.
Reserve currencies possess extraordinary advantages, advantages most people never see. Imagine running a business where everyone wants your product, not occasionally, constantly. That demand creates leverage. The same principle applies to currencies. Because the world needs dollars, the United States gains unique flexibility. It can borrow more easily, finance deficits more easily, influence financial flows more effectively. This does not mean economic laws disappear, but it does change the architecture. The reserve currency occupies a privileged position inside the global system. Demand becomes structural, not temporary, and structural demand creates resilience. For decades, many analysts predicted the decline of the dollar, yet the system endured. Why? Because replacing infrastructure is extraordinarily difficult. People do not abandon systems simply because alternatives exist. They abandon systems when alternatives become more useful, more reliable, or more attractive. And that distinction is critical for understanding de-dollarization.
Every dominant system eventually creates incentives for alternatives. The larger the system becomes, the more participants seek independence from it. This dynamic appears throughout history. Empires, trade routes, technology platforms, financial networks. The dollar is no exception. Several forces now encourage diversification: geopolitical tensions, economic competition,
sanctions, national security concerns, technological innovation. Many countries increasingly ask the same question. What happens if our economy depends too heavily on someone else's system? That question drives experimentation, bilateral trade agreements, alternative payment networks, gold accumulation, regional settlement mechanisms, digital currency initiatives. Notice something important. Most of these developments are not attempts to destroy the dollar. They are attempts to reduce dependency. And that distinction matters because de-dollarization is often misunderstood. It is less about replacing one system overnight and more about creating optionality within the global architecture. Now we arrive at the question most people ask. What happens if the dollar collapses? The architect asks a different question. What would need to happen for the dollar to collapse? Because systems do not collapse simply because people dislike them. They collapse when the incentives supporting them disappear. The modern global economy remains deeply integrated with dollar infrastructure, debt markets, banking systems, trade settlements, financial contracts, reserve holdings. The scale is immense. A sudden collapse would create extraordinary disruption, not only for America, but for nearly every major economy. This is why dramatic predictions often miss the point. The greater risk is not sudden collapse. The greater risk is gradual erosion, a slow redistribution of monetary influence, a world where multiple systems coexist, multiple reserve assets, multiple payment networks, multiple centers of financial gravity. The transition would not look like an explosion. It would look like migration. This is where wealth enters the story. Most people react to headlines. The architect studies incentives. If de-dollarization continues, certain trends become increasingly important. Monetary diversification, commodity flows, strategic assets, financial infrastructure, geopolitical alignment. Not because any single outcome is guaranteed, but because changing systems create changing incentives. History demonstrates a consistent pattern. When major economic architectures shift, wealth often transfers toward those who understand the transition early, not because they predict every event, but because they recognize the direction of the system. The greatest fortunes are often built during periods of structural change. Railroads, industrialization, globalization, the internet. Each transformed economic incentives. Each created new winners. Each rewarded systems thinking. The future monetary order may do the same. The most important lesson of de-dollarization has nothing to do with predicting the future value of the dollar. It has everything to do with understanding how systems evolve. Most people see currencies. The architect sees networks. Most people see exchange rates. The architect sees incentives. Most people see headlines. The architect sees infrastructure, because infrastructure determines outcomes. The dollar became dominant because it solved a coordination problem for the world economy. Its power emerged from adoption, from trust, from network effects, from utility. And if a future system ever challenges that dominance, it will likely emerge through the same mechanisms, not force, not slogans, not declarations, but incentives. The lesson is universal. Wealth is rarely determined by individual events. It is shaped by the systems connecting those events together. And the most valuable skill in periods of transformation is not prediction, it is observation. The ability to see architecture changing before the crowd notices. Because monetary systems come and go, Empires rise and fall. Technologies evolve. But one principle remains constant. The people who understand the system beneath the surface often see the future before everyone else. Most people study currencies. The architect studies the infrastructure supporting them. Because wealth is not built by following money. It is built by understanding the systems that determine where money flows. This is Nexera, decoding systems, architecting wealth.